We've all had pasta and marinara sauce, and I love it. It's one of my favorite dishes, but there's no reason this has to come from a jar. Because the great thing about marinara is that when you use fresh ingredients, it's simple, it's fast, and it's versatile. Because once you know how to make this dish, you can use that same sauce to make millions of others. So I thought we might spend some time and look at where marinara comes from. We'll visit a farm where they grow tomatoes, we'll visit a Sicilian chef who makes one mean marinara sauce, and then we'll go to the kitchen and see if we can't make it ourselves. So why don't you spend some time with me and we'll see why marinara is such an awesome sauce. The history of marinara begins back when Spain occupied the kingdom of Naples during the 1500s, where they brought the tomato back from the New World. Other parts of Europe resisted the tomato because of its cousin, the deadly nightshade. Naples, however, had no such reservations, and soon developed the marinara, or mariner's sauce. The name doesn't come from any seafood ingredients, but rather from the people who created it. Some say that ship's cooks invented the acidic sauce as a perfect traveling food since it resisted spoiling. Others say that sailors' wives concocted it to complement the seafood that their husbands brought back from their voyages. The first official cookbook to feature marinara was the Modern Steward in 1692. Not too long after, marinara met pasta, and the rest is history. This delicious, nutritious, and simple sauce has since become one of the world's favorites, and one of mine too. The key to an awesome sauce is, of course, awesome ingredients. And for marinara, the king ingredient is the tomato. So we're gonna go see a guy with the unlikely name of Screech, who I've been told grows the best tomatoes around. So your name is officially Screech? Is that what's on your birth certificate, or is it?
Well, what's on my birth certificate gets, you know, I can doctor those things.
And this is your farm, Screech Owl Farms?
Screech Owl Greenhouse.
Screech Owl Greenhouse. And this is all organic?
No, I'm not organic. I'm pesticide free.
Pesticide free. What is the difference?
I don't use organic fertilizer.
However, I take one of your tomatoes home, there's not going to be anything clinging to it chemically that I want.
There's no chemicals put on it because I'm in here. Anything that I would put on these for a spray, I would be brushing off.
Ah.
You would only be eating one tomato. I would be in here for several hours.
The ones on the bottom there, they're really a bright red. Does that mean that they're ripe?
No, the color is not really saying that it's ripe. The only way you can tell it's ripe, and that, unless you have the fancy little, I should say, yeah, the fancy little bricks meter to tell you the sugar content.
I'm sorry, there's a tomato meter?
Yeah,
or is it a tomatometer?
It's a bricks meter. What it's doing is measuring the sugar in your tomato. But the best way I found is to take a bite.
Just bite into it.
Bite into it, then you get what flavor's in it. You know right where you're at.
So I'm gonna bite into this like an apple.
Like an apple?
Okay, do me a favor. So that reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah.
Please scream out, Keith, have you done your chores?
Oh, if you do. We know you haven't.
Well, that's true, because I'm in the garden having a tomato. All right, ready? All right, here we go. Let me tell you, biting into a fresh tomato is like going to flavor nirvana. When someone makes a good marinara sauce, that's the flavor they're trying to capture.
Yes, that's what, well, for anything you're using a tomato for, that's the flavor you're after.
Yeah, exactly, the tomato.
The tomato.
And don't screw with it.
Yes.
Just the tomato if you can, right?
Tomato, yes.
Excellent. Yeah, one more. So I guess if you want a really fresh tomato, you don't go to a grocery store. You go to a farmer's market.
You go to a farmer's market where there's local people.
Right, and I guess if you find somebody that grows them locally, they don't have to pick them. They can pick them when they're ripe rather than weeks before.
Yes, they can pick them when they're ripe. They bring them. They're usually picking the day before or 2 days before.
We're making a marinara sauce. So you think that these would be good for that?
Oh yes.
All right.
They would be really good for that. It will surprise you how good they are.
That's exactly the kind of surprise I'm looking forward to. I would love to try some. I think that will do us. That's 10.
Okay, we push blue number 2.
Blue number 2. For that flavor, that's a bargain. You know that you may have a line of cars coming up here.
Well, hey, until I run out, that's a good thing to have.
All right, now, if these make it home, I'm going to make a marinara sauce from these deliciously sweet local tomatoes. But the problem is, I need a recipe, and there are thousands of different ways to make marinara. So what I thought we'd do is go to a local restaurant where there's a Sicilian chef who makes her own marinara in the old-fashioned way, and maybe we can learn something from her we can take back into our kitchen. Hi!
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to Casalinga.
Thank you very much. I'm Keith. You must be Josephine?
Yes.
Or how do you say it in Italian?
Giuseppina.
Giuseppina.
In a Sicilian dialect.
A Sicilian, and
Yes.
you're Sicilian.
I'm one of 10 children. We're born in Sicily, Italy.
Oh, 10
and we came
kids.
from Sicily to Brooklyn. We started out first a little restaurant with my mom and dad. And here we are in Raleigh. So we do more Sicilian with a touch of Northern.
Excellent.
Yes.
And you're going to teach me how to make a little Sicilian cuisine today?
What would you like to know about the Sicilian kitchen, and what would you like me to cook?
Well, this whole thing is about marinara
Class?
sauce. So
okay,
is there a...
great.
Is there
We have a great Sicilian marinara sauce. It's a great basic sauce that we could use it in so many ways.
Well, I'm honored that you would share that with me.
Okay, well, welcome.
Well, thank you. Let's off to the kitchen.
It's all about tomatoes. It's all depending on what the tomato tastes like, what type of tomato. You have to taste and pretty much
But
throw
in the
in what
end-
needs to be thrown in.
But in the end, it's the quality of the sauce
It's
is
the
all about the
quality,
tomato.
It's all about the tomato. You use what you have in the kitchen.
There you go.
If
Use
you
what
have a can of San Marzano tomatoes, you crush them with your hands.
So you use your hand.
Everything is with hands, touch, feel, and taste.
And why
When we
use your
cook-
Why use your hands? Why not use a tool?
Because it just you have to feel the texture of the sauce.
Oh, okay. It's a quick
And
way to lose
smoothing it
jewelry.
out.
I'm just going to say.
Yes.
Probably if you had rings on, that would not be a...
I took my rings off.
Oh, okay, gotcha. They say part of cooking and part of enjoying food is
Yes.
texture.
That's right,
And this is not
texture.
some puree thing that came from a jar. This is a
Right.
nice, chunky sauce that now I want to lick my fingers, and I'm not
Right.
going to do that. Thank you very much.
So once we got that, we get our pan ready there. Olive oil first.
Oh, I can smell that
Garlic.
olive oil
Garlic.
already.
Garlic. Lots of garlic.
Garlic. And that's not finely chopped. That's nice and
Yes,
chunky
that's a
garlic.
little on the chunky side. In this way of the marinara, you want to put a little chunk. It gives a lot more flavor.
Right.
You want to pretty much, you don't want to ever burn your garlic.
Right.
Because that will make a bad taste in the sauce.
Right.
So you want to kind of brown it a little bit, but not too much.
I see.
Now we place the bowl. You don't want to make a mess in the kitchen.
Sure,
And
sure.
Just put,
You know, you just violated one of my cardinal rules because I always make a mess in the kitchen.
I do too. And then we add some salt, pepper.
Uh-huh.
You have to pretty much taste the sauce and see what it needs.
Right.
Now, a lot of the cans of tomatoes might have some basil, as you can see.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
Yes. But I always like to add a little bit towards the end.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Now that has a little bit. Taste that. How is that tasting?
That's just got so much flavor in it.
Yes.
The garlic is still fresh. The tomatoes are nice, and they're sweet.
This is great to have on the side in your refrigerator if you're scooping up a last-minute meal in pasta or seafood, anything you want.
The great thing is, it's easy.
It's
easy
easy.
and it's fast,
Yes.
and there's
This
no
is-
reason to eat out of a jar
Yes.
when you can do something this
This
quickly.
is a sauce that probably takes 15 to 20 minutes.
That's fantastic. You used the canned tomatoes,
Yes.
and it tastes wonderful. But if people want to use fresh tomatoes, are there any sort of is there anything that I need to do or look out for when I'm using fresh tomatoes?
When you're using, you could use plum tomatoes if you have in the house,
Yeah.
or beefsteak tomatoes. You
So
chop
any
those
tomato
up.
will work.
Any tomato you really want.
And
You
how-
drain them.
So you drain them.
Yes.
So you chop them. You put them in like a strainer or
You
something.
get a little like pasta drainer
Uh-huh.
or whatever, and you drain them a little bit.
Okay.
You know, you shake it a little bit, get that.
Would you salt
water.
them a little bit more first to
Salt
draw?
them?
Well, just
No.
slightly to draw the water out. No.
No, I don't do that.
Okay.
No, eggplants we do that.
You do that. Ah, okay. So this is about how much?
This is a serving for 4 people for 4 dishes of pasta.
That doesn't seem like a lot. Now, I guess
Well,
the whole point is you don't want to drown your
The
pasta.
whole thing is we don't drown our pasta with sauce. Pretty much put a scoop on top, fresh grated cheese, a basil, and you're ready to go. I know it looks pretty.
It looks pretty. I
but
hate to
the
ruin
way
the
we
picture.
do it is
Right. Just look at that. There's all those chunks in there. I love the tomato, and I'm gonna get a big chunk of garlic because I have no friends.
just scoop it out
telling you, right?
with the spoon. It's easy for me.
So you let me do it the silly way. Oh,
Now does that taste like it was just from the country?
right. That's really wonderful. It's not just one flavor too. It's It's the cheese, it's the garlic, it's all sort of individual. It's not like one, you get it from a jar, it all tastes like one thing.
Right.
This is great.
And the way you're tasting it right now, it's just like you went and picked out those tomatoes in that beautiful countryside of Sicily and started making them.
Well, it's delicious. Thank you so much for having us in your kitchen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And now let's go home and let's try this out.
Okay.
There we go. There's a bowl full of fresh tomatoes. These are Screech's tomatoes, and count them. They're all there. I didn't dip into the bag while you've been gone. So these tomatoes are at the peak of their ripeness. We could taste that. They were nice and sweet. So that means that when we make our marinara sauce, we don't want to muck with them too much. We want to kind of keep them as basic as possible and not like overcook them. So I'm going to follow Josephine's recipe, which means that we're going to crush these tomatoes up. But the great thing about these sauces is that you make them to your tastes. And my tastes include an onion. Now, it's a white onion. If you have a purple onion or a yellow onion, it doesn't matter. Just use what you've got in the kitchen. I've also got a head of garlic. Now, we're talking about fresh ingredients here, so don't go and get a jar of garlic. This will give you an entirely different texture with nice chunky bits of garlic. And goodness gracious, if your friends don't love you when you have garlic breath, then they're not really your friends. I also have pasta, wine, and in addition to all of that, I want to use some fresh herbs. So I went out to my box garden out back and I picked some fresh herbs. I have some basil, some rosemary, but I didn't have any oregano. My neighbor did, and I went over and I borrowed some. You do what you have to do. So anyway, the first step to make these tomatoes crushable, the way Josephine did, is to get rid of the skins. And I'm going to do that by throwing the tomatoes in some boiling water for about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to throw them into ice water, and magically the skins should just peel off. I have had mixed results, but let's give it a go. And don't throw them in. The water will splash up on you and burn you, and you have more tomatoes to do this to. One 1,000, two 1,000, three 1,000, four 1,000, 19 1,000, 20 1,000. I need to buy a timer. That's going to loosen those skins up, and then we're going to throw them in this ice water over here. Okay, well and be careful because the skins are already coming off. Look at that. So that's a warning sign to you and to me to watch your step. There we go. Alrighty. So now you can see the skins just peel right off, and that right there sure did this time. Maybe it has something to do with the ripeness of the tomatoes, but the skin just peels right off there. And now I like doing things in small batches in the kitchen because, well, first of all, sometimes it's easier because you don't have bowls that are big enough. But it's really not about that. It's about if you keep things in small batches, you're not tempted to rush. Oh, my water's boiling. I got to get these out. I got to get these into the ice. And because if you rush in the kitchen, I'm going to get hurt. I hope you're better at it than I am, but I'm a klutz. So let's throw some more tomatoes into the boiling water. Now, before I crush up the tomatoes, I'm going to go ahead and chop my other ingredients. And tomato, that's the dominant flavor that I want in the sauce because these are so fresh and so sweet. So I'm only going to add half of an onion. That way the onion doesn't overpower the tomato or become more dominant. And I'll put in, because it complements it so well, I'm going to put in probably 5 cloves of garlic. I'll chop those coarsely. This is coarsely chopped, and that way it adds to the texture of the sauce. I like a chunky sauce. Ah, now that's hitting full force right now. You know, I've tried everything from scuba gear to soaking these things in ice water, and nothing works except to just have a good cry. If you embrace sorrow when it visits you, it releases endorphins just like good food. And you can fool people into thinking that you're upset, and they'll do things for you. So it's just a little tip. Now, those of you accustomed to working with a jar, it's really simple. You just find a weak spot in the head of garlic, break it up, pull out the cloves that you want, and then you'll notice they're wrapped in this papery thing. Now, look, here's the thing. I have lots of sort of passions in my life. I'm a woodworker. I like cooking just because I enjoy it. And the thing about both of those hobbies is they're full of people who are going to tell you their way of doing it like it's the way of doing it. And if you're not careful, it'll keep you from even trying. So just find something that works for you and go at it. My way of getting the skin off the garlic is to do the old thing where you smash it with the back of the knife, and then the skin just comes off and you're left with the clove of garlic. So, our tomatoes. Now, as much as I might want to squish these with my hands, they are full of juice right now and under pressure. So before I squeeze into these, which would send the juice shooting everywhere, I'm just going to chop them up coarsely to relieve that pressure so there's no like big... So, here we go. I'm just going to sort of coarsely just sort of break that up, and I'm just going to throw them right back in the bowl because that's where they're going to begin with. Depending on your friend's appetites, of course, this will feed 4, I would say even 6 people if you're someone who likes to just sort of lightly apply the sauce to pasta. Keep in mind that some people are going to come back to this sauce in 1 second, so maybe it is just 4. So now it's time to get our hands busy and squeeze some tomatoes, which is why I'm wearing the apron. Inevitably, it's going to get on you, so wear an apron, especially if you're making this as your guests are about to arrive. All right, so let's go to it. Let's make Josephine proud. Oh, yeah. Well, I did warn you, didn't I? All right. That's about the consistency I like. You know, you're making this, and not only can you make it to your taste, but you can make it to your texture. If you like your sauce, you know, really chunky, I like the way I do. I like it because it's full of fresh tomatoes. Then I'm going to make it my way. If you like to puree your tomatoes, you can do that. But one thing you should keep in mind, there's a lot of liquid in these tomatoes. So I'm going to strain this and pull some of this liquid out, and that way when I'm cooking, I can add the liquid back in if I need to sort of wet the sauce a little bit. And I think that's enough, and then I'll just put it back in this bowl. Look at all of the liquid that came out of there. I mean, that's, you know, that's a Bloody Mary in the making is what that is. Pan's just about warm, so I'm going to go ahead and put some olive oil here in the bottom of our dish. Now, this is not your fine, high-quality olive oil because here's the thing. When you cook olive oil, you lose a lot of the great things that are in olive oil. So you never use your high-quality olive oils for cooking because you save them till the end. So after the olive oil, you add your onions, and you're just gonna make sure your heat's not too high. You're just gonna cook these until they become translucent. And what it means is partially see-through. You know, you're gonna soften them up. I'll add a little more oil if it's starting to caramelize. Onions tend to absorb a little bit of the oil. This is about right. I'm gonna add my garlic now because garlic will ruin the taste of your food if you let it burn. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. That's what my coach used to say. We got for a run. And I'd try to hide, and then he would always find us in a hiding place. Yeah, keep it moving, keep it moving. So before our garlic starts to really burn, I'm going to go ahead and add the tomatoes now. And go easy, go slow. You don't want them to splatter or splash. There we go. And now we're going to let that come up to a simmer. All right, this is up to a nice. It's a nice simmer. So I'm going to add some of our herbs. I'm not going to add the basil to the end because the basil loses its flavor, you know, the more it cooks. So we want that to be like fresh when we put it in. So I'm going to put in herbs of your choice. In my particular case, this is a little bit of rosemary and oregano because I like it. I like oregano. It's going to simmer just enough time for me to get some water on the boil and put that pasta in. So that's really sweet. So you may find that you need a fair amount of salt in this sauce to really kind of pop that flavor. These are really bright flavors. They're very sweet flavors. So the wine is going to help, and I'll go ahead and add the wine now. This is my favorite part because I have to taste the wine first, to be honest with you, because you never put anything in your food that you wouldn't eat all on its own. So our water is a-boiling. There we go. So I'm going to put in my penne. Why penne? I don't care what pasta you use, but I like the way the little tubes catch the juice. Because they're all about tomatoes for me. So we'll just go ahead and pour it in. Okay. And our pasta cooks for about 8 minutes, which is about the length of American pie. So we'll just long did I die. So let's check it. So the pasta is ready. The sauce tastes just right. I've added a little more salt. Now I'm going to shut my heat off, and I'm going to add our basil, and that way I'll just stir that in at the last moment. That'll distribute that flavor through there. So I'm going to start. I'm going to go ahead and put some pasta on this plate. And if we follow Josephine's instructions, I'll put a little bit more on there because this is what I'm here for. I'd say it looks pretty delicious. I throw a little garnish on there just because, well, why not? It's nice and chunky. There's a little bit of liquid in the bottom that's separated out. If I did this again, I would strain the tomatoes a little longer at the beginning, but otherwise, this looks and it tastes fantastic. The only thing I'm going to do to dress it up is I'm going to add a little Parmesan cheese because it's just what I like, and cracked pepper. After all, it's my recipe. I'll tell you something, I'm really proud of this dish. And at the end of the day, I want to leave the kitchen feeling proud of what I've made, and I want to know that I've learned something. And this time, I learned from Josephine that I should make the dish I love, and I should love making it. And I also learned from Screech that the quality of your ingredients, if they're fresh, if their flavors are vibrant, those carry over to your final product. And so any sauce I make in the future, I'm going to carry those lessons with me. Now, the great thing about marinara sauce is that it sits at the root of a whole bunch of different dishes. So if you take the same sauce and you add hot pepper, for instance, you've made what's called fra diavolo. You could take sausage or you could take meatballs and you could simmer them in this sauce and they'll give their flavor over to the sauce. You take this sauce and you layer it between layers of flat pasta with ricotta cheese, you got lasagna. So this is the starting place for all of that. Go and use it. Don't just make the dish I made. Make your own. And next time we'll make another sauce and we can start all over again. Come back and join us. Now be sure to check out our new friends at Screech Greenhouses and Casalinga Italian Restaurant, either online or in person. And come take a look at our show's Facebook page, because everyone in the world has to have a Facebook page now, for some reason.